Dock workers all up and down the eastern coast of the United States went on strike beginning on October the 1st. This strike quickly ended because Hurricane Helen hit and folks desperately needed supplies. So the dock workers and the government quickly came to an agreement. This agreement is only temporary and set to end on January the 15th. I bet you're wondering what all of this has to do with the sewing community, but I'm about to talk about that now. So let's go ahead and get into it. The history of the sewing machine runs parallel to everything that's happened with the dock workers going on strike. In the early 1800s, there were a number of inventors who drew sewing machines, but they never actually, to our knowledge, made sewing machines until 1830, when a man by the name of Thimble received a patent and began making uniforms for the French army. You'd think that everyone would be happy about the invention of the sewing machine, but everyone was not. Let's go ahead and take a look at a small clip from the documentary The Secret Life of a Sewing Machine that further explains what happened to Thimble and his invention.
The first person to build a sewing machine and put it to any practical use was a French tailor called Thimble.
Oh, my thumb!
After years of failure, he finally patented a machine in 1830.
That little clip reiterates a lot of what I have already said. However, I found it important to play because he worked very, very hard to make the sewing machine an actual working reality, because it's very different to have something on paper than it is to actually make it in real life.
By 1841, he had 80 machines stitching army clothing in a Paris factory. An angry crowd of tailors, fearing that the invention would rob them of their livelihood, then broke into the factory and destroyed the machines.
In spite of destroying the initial sewing machines, tailors eventually lost this war to the Industrial Revolution. Nowadays, all of our clothes are made on an assembly line, and we simply just go to the store and purchase an outfit whenever we want it. The only persons who ever use a tailor are the rich and uber wealthy who have their clothing custom made, or for special occasions like weddings and things of that nature. It is now almost 200 years later, and we're going through a new revolution. And I'm going to allow the president of the Longshoremen's Association to explain that revolution and what is happening to the jobs there. And I'm going to chime in with my commentary and also give you one more reason why this has everything to do with sewing. But before I go and do all of that, please do take the time to subscribe to my channel, tap the notification bell to receive updates, and give this video a thumbs up so it can get pushed out in the algorithm.
I can tell you, back in the 60s,
The first company that started in containerization was Sealand.
I already know that many of you don't know what containerization is, so let me explain. As per Google, it says that containerization, as it pertains to shipping, is a shipping method that involves transporting goods in large standardized containers that can be used on multiple modes of transportation. You have seen these containers on the back of transfer trucks. You've also seen them on big boats as they bring goods to and fro. And if these goods don't come in these containers, then you have no food in your grocery stores, no fabric at the fabric store, etc.
Two guys, two truck drivers, Malcolm McLean, Cecil Yeagers, got together and said, you know, we're taking cargo up and down the East Coast. Why don't we get a ship, put the cargo on a ship, and go up and down the East Coast? They weren't even thinking about over Europe, none of that.
In the 1960s and early 70s, the vast majority of households had a sewing machine inside of it, and the lady of the household would sew everyone's clothes, and most people only had a few outfits in their closet. But then something changed. We're going to put the pieces of that puzzle together, but before we do, let me go ahead and let him finish out what he's saying.
They wanted to try to catch a trucking company to put it on a ship and bring it up here, put it on a ship and bring it down here. So they went and got an old tanker ship, and they got engineers, and they sponsored the money, and they got people to chip in, and they came up and they built a crane on the ship, and they got a container, and they put the cargo in, and maybe the first ship came up with 50 boxes, not even 50, 20 boxes. It worked. They came in to the port, the crane on the ship unloaded them, and they loaded them on, and they went down. Well, it caught on. And from there, everywhere you go in the world, you'll see those cranes. They look like monsters. No matter where you go, what port, overseas, Europe, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, anywhere, Spain, those cranes are there. It all started with Sealand.
Once containerization happened, a lot of goods started coming in from overseas, and it became far cheaper to go to the store and purchase an outfit than it was to have someone to make an outfit at home. Thus, the sewing machine eventually got out of the households, and virtually everyone buys their clothes and has no idea about how to sew, and that's how we ended up where we are today. Another thing that happened with containerization is that the manufacturing went overseas. Beforehand, companies like Singer existed in the United States, and they had manufacturing plants in New Jersey and Anderson, South Carolina. Once those plants ran overseas to China, then the sewing machine quality was greatly diminished, and we ended up with plastic sewing machines that are no longer of heirloom quality. It wasn't just manufacturing jobs in the sewing sector that were lost, but also jobs across all industries lost manufacturing jobs, and those jobs ran overseas. Today, America is vastly a service country rather than a manufacturing one, because the vast majority of our goods come from overseas. Another thing that is ironic about what he just said here is when it comes to the longshoremen. Those cranes that he was talking about, there were longshoremen that lost their jobs to the cranes. And I found an article from the New York Times that was published in October of 1977 that speaks a little bit about that, and I would like to read a small snippet of that if you don't mind. The revolution, the use of containers, has superseded longshoremen's arms with mechanical arms of giant cranes, and has replaced teeming waterfronts full of wooden crates and burlap sacks with vast, stark marshalling yards packed with sleek steel boxes. The boxes, called containers, become instant trailer vans when they are swung off ships and snapped onto truck chassis. There are 2 million of the sleek steel boxes in the world, according to the Containerization Institute in New York, and deliveries are expected on 300,000 new ones this year. In the next 10 years, the industry expects that number of containers around the world will double. And of course, we know that there's many more containers than that. I have this little illustration here that shows the amount of containers that existed back in the day before containerization, and then what happened once containerization occurred. And as you can see, there are a tremendous amount of goods being shipped in from overseas. I find it quite ironic that the president of the ILA is heading a strike when so many people lost their jobs to containerization years ago. Let's go ahead and hear more in depth about the reason why he decided to do a strike.
They want to go automation. They want more money now. Get rid of these men. We don't need them no more. It's a big change going on. I've been fighting automation for years. They destroyed LA. They put a fully automated terminal out there at Merce Line. 800 longshoremen lost their jobs. If it was up to them, they would like to see everybody lose their jobs. Let me tell you, it's not just in the longshore. They got ships in Europe that they're building. They got one now, runs on a battery, container ship. No crew. Somebody in an office building runs it. Goes out, goes in. They don't want anybody. They don't want to pay anybody. It's not only this union, it's in every union in every aspect. If they keep putting machinery to take our jobs, who's going to pay the income tax? Machines are not. Who's going to pay for the military, the roads? Everything runs by taxes.
So let me get this straight. He wants to go on strike because the owners of these shipping companies are moving to automation and getting rid of their jobs. Okay, well, how did that work out for the tailors almost 200 years ago? Do you think that that helped them to keep their jobs by destroying the few sewing machines that existed? No, it actually sped up the process and more sewing machines were made, factories were made, and the Industrial Revolution steamed right along. Enough about all of that. Let's go ahead and get to the second reason why this topic has everything to do with sewing. Automation is quickly becoming more and more part of the home sewing experience, but how far do we as sewers really want to go when it comes to automation? Stitch regulators give us perfectly even stitches, and embroidery modules allow us to make perfectly embroidered items, but do we truly want all of our handmade goods to be 100% perfect and partially made by artificial intelligence? Or would we like to make our own items and have them have slight imperfections in them, because the imperfection adds beauty to the piece and also makes the piece more special when we're giving that item as a gift? I don't know. Some of you probably will say that you would like your items to look perfect, while others will say that they would rather have their piece have more of a handmade touch. For the hobbyist, automation is a choice, but for the person who does sewing or embroidery as a career, automation is actually a threat to their livelihood, because if a robot can do all of the work, then where are they needed? Also, during the Industrial Revolution, jobs were taken away from tailors, yes, but new jobs were created as people were able to work in factories and that sort of thing. But with automation, there is a slight difference, because while automation is creating some new jobs, it's also not creating the same amount of jobs as what would be needed. For example, in the grocery store, you used to have like 10 different cashiers working, but now all of those cashiers are gone and it's been replaced with a machine that accepts cash from customers, and there's maybe one person there to monitor the machines, and that's really all that they do. Those 9 other people don't have jobs. Maybe one of the other people out of the 9 may get a job repairing the machines as they go down, but that's still not replacing the same amount of jobs as what would be needed. If sewing machines were to become fully automated, where would you fit in as a crafter? And better yet, where would you fit in if you are a business owner who owns a sewing or embroidery business? What would be your other alternative? I would like to know your thoughts down in the comment section below, so please do let me know this. And also, if you've reached the end of this video and you still don't understand how this strike has to do with sewing, then I'd recommend you go and take a look at another one of my videos where I discuss fabric prices and how shipping plays a major role in that. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to receive more sewing related content. Peace.